sometimes it's easier said than done to get a three-way trade to the finish line because, you've got so many different variables, moving parts, working through that process. And we had been at it for, close to a week to 10 days, at least talking different concepts. And we were able to get it to the finish line today. And I look back at, where we were at opening day with, the players that we moved on from today and traded to other clubs, whether, Erick, Tommy, Michael, and going back to the winter meetings when we signed Erick Fedde and having that conversation and explaining to everyone, why we were signing Erick Fedde, even though he had a fantastic year in the KBO and what we saw in him. And I'm really proud of what he was able to accomplish on his journey back to the big leagues. And in talking to Erick, he was very thankful to be able to get back to the big leagues and establish himself as a top of the rotation type arm in a short period of time. And with the current state of our organization, where we were in the offseason to where we are now, with the idea of identifying players like Erick and be able to more or less drive a value up of a player to be able to bring in prospect capital, in which we were able to do. So, really proud of doing that. Obviously, Michael, we've had for a longer time in our organization. He was in the minor leagues. I just started as a farm director when we acquired him. It might have been one of my first phone calls, acquisition phone calls, to welcome him in. And, it hasn't been smooth sailing for him, and he's grown up a lot, both on and off the field. I'm proud of Michael and the person that he's become. I know in talking to him, he felt like, he wanted to give more to the White Sox. Felt like he could have given more. But I certainly didn't want him to feel like he let anyone down, because he's accomplished a lot. I mean, I guess in kind of recent history here, where he was at the end of the season and trying to get him to the finish line. As a starter, we gave him a taste of the bullpen where we were in spring training, and establishing himself as a pretty solid reliever, even dominant at times. As an organization, we felt like we drove up his value as well, and was able to capitalize that for the long-term health of the organization. And Tommy, we didn't even have Tommy on opening day, and the bolt, or I should say the jolt that he gave to our offense when he came over here was well needed. He the way he goes about his business as a hitter, as a professional, was welcomed. We will miss him, but also, I look back and feel like we got a lot out of Tommy Pham, and was able to, package him in this deal as well to, once again, help the long-term health of our organization. So, Miguel Vargas, I'd say fans are probably more familiar with him because he's been in the big leagues. He hasn't gotten a clear runway at the major league level. And he's one of the younger, brighter bats in our game. And, the way that he puts together at bats, his zone awareness, his contact ability, his power potential. We're a team that ranks at the bottom offensively, and so our focus was to find bats through our acquisition process here at the trade deadline, and we'll continue to be able to inject 3 offensive players into our organization. I think is a wise move. Vargas obviously is further along in his career, and will be in our lineup here at some point in the coming days. And look forward to getting his major league journey going as getting everyday at bats. And Gerald Perez, he played in the Futures game, another guy that's got a bright future, high ceiling. He can be an impactful offensive force, plays the middle infield. He's got zone control, and he's got bat to ball, and really loves to get after it. The makeup's really strong there, and Alexander Albertus is another guy that's just getting his minor league career going. He got off to a great start in the ACL. Our scouts were raving about him analytically. He looks strong too, so to get those three, we felt like was a very, very good return, especially considering where we were on opening day, and using some of the players that have become something to acquire talent.
Folks maybe see a trade like this and think that it should come with a certain amount of quantity in terms of the prospects you guys get back. What about the quality of these guys makes you feel that you kind of maximize the opportunity here? Yeah,
I mean, we've done deals in the past where it was more volume-based than just perhaps some other trades that are just one or two players higher value, and in this case it's three. It was about finding players that can control the zone and have real offensive potential. And Miguel Vargas, we're most familiar with him just because he's further along in his career. He was heavily sought after last offseason by teams, certainly at this deadline. That it's a robust lineup that they have over the Dodgers regularly or usually, and they weren't able to run him out there on an everyday basis because of the type of talent that they have. So we're going to get a chance to really get an idea of what he's capable of doing, and we're confident that he's going to be a strong middle of the lineup type hitter for us in the near future.
Why was
He's a guy that's played outfield, infield. We'll continue to do the same here. Corner outfield, play some infield to get first base. He's got DH at bats in him as well. So we do feel like there's defensive value. It's not just a bat, but the offensive profile is what was most intriguing.
Why was combination of the three the best bet for you guys? I imagine you had individual interest in Fedde from other teams too, with what he's one of the better starters in baseball this year. What did the way you structured this make the most sense?
Yeah, when you're talking about expiring contracts on players, there was interest, in Tommy Pham in a single team deal, so to speak, or on his own, but it wasn't going to bring as much value as we felt like we got in this deal. The expiring contract, right-handed bat, in all honesty, it has its limitations on a return. That's just how the market has been for years, and was playing out this year, or this deadline. So we felt like it made the most sense to get this deal to the finish line with Tommy in it.
Can you explain how a three-teamer works from your end? I assume you're the central team. You send players to both. Are you talking to one and bringing in the other? How did maybe you can give us a little short version, I guess?
Sure. I mean, you head towards the deadline and you get an idea what each organization's needs are approaching that deadline. Obviously, we were on the selling side, and Tommy Edman is someone that the Dodgers have had interest in for a while. And quite honestly, I've always kind of been intrigued by Tommy as well. He's just a solid all-around player. He hasn't been on the field much this year because of injuries, but in St. Louis wanted a starting pitcher, targeted Erick. With those needs and those conversations, and we just kind of connected the dots and were able to facilitate a deal. But those are, I'd say more three-way trades don't get to the finish line than they do.
How do you feel, without revealing more than you want to, the impact of Crochet's representatives' comments on the marketplace? It's tough to tell at this point because the trade deadline is not, we're not at the deadline quite yet. Garrett and I felt like we've had a really strong relationship back to when we drafted him, and I think about the alternate site and
he made his major league debut, so quickly without any minor league games. And I remember driving over here. He had never been to a major league park, and being with him and kind of going through that experience with him, getting acclimated to the major leagues and, going through his injuries, and his decision, along with mine to go into this year preparing to be a starter and giving him a chance to do that. I'm really, I continue to feel that we have a really open and honest relationship, and certainly I believe in Garrett, and he goes out. Whether I believe in him or not doesn't matter, because he believes in himself as a pitcher. The communication had been very strong between Garrett and I, and his agency, and I was a little surprised and taken back by how they went about it, considering that I had a conversation with his agent, the night before. I didn't, that's not exactly the tactic that I would have taken, even being a former player, quite honestly, just because the dialogue had been so honest, and real and careful and mindful of his career, because I've known him since we got him. So I was a little surprised by it. I was. I think most people, most fans, and even players, without knowing everything, it makes sense. I think we understand, why a stance would be taken like that. Now, how you go about expressing that is what was, a bit hurtful, quite honestly, considering I felt like we could have handled it a little bit differently, and still, I think everyone accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. But Garrett's a very talented arm, and he's just getting his starting career going, and he's looking out for his long-term well-being. We fully understand and support that, and will continue to do so. But the belief that we didn't have his best intentions in mind, I think, was what I was a little surprised by with how it was handled. But we're Garrett and I are fine. We are good. I'll continue to be one of his top supporters, and in regards to how it affects his the coming days, tough to tell.
Is it fair to say that some teams have backed away because of the rhetoric?
I think that it created some questions, in which sometimes I'm able to combat some of that just because of the relationships I have with other clubs. But it definitely created some questions. The short-term and long-term consequences are unknown.
Is there a chance still that he could sign a long-term contract with this team?
I think that there's a chance. He's still, with us right now, and he's a guy that is continuing to become, one of the top arms in the game, and we certainly value that. But it also goes back to what's best for the long-term health of the White Sox, and so we're weighing all of those types of things, and right now we're just focused on making sound decisions.
How do you characterize the chances of him getting traded yet before 5 o'clock? I don't know. We're having conversations to say or speculate. I think is it's not. I think it's not important and not wise. I understand why. I understand the question and the curiosity because of what he's done this year. But we're continuing to work through it.
We all silly like the mayor.